Hello everyone, welcome to the Zero Conference 2025. We are together with two great speakers and young people from the Washington DC. We will discuss about how, in the Washington University, inclusive research and disability inclusion helps, for the research of the university, and why why young students want to engage in such research, and what's the purpose of that, and why we need to do that. Before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Kamil Goungor. I work for the European Network on Independent Living. I will be your host for the next 15 minutes, and we have captioning, we have sign language, and I want also to welcome all of you following online. Hopefully you can hear us and you can see us. Together with me, we have Alice Bruil, welcome, and Alexandra Crooks from Washington University. You did a long trip to be with us, so I guess you have something very nice to share with us. So, yeah, I think I can give you the floor to tell us a bit who you are and what you do, and we take it from there. So, who wants to start?
I can start. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Alice Bruil. I'm in my last year of study at the University of Washington, majoring in international studies and French. And I found the Disability Inclusive Development Initiative through my interest in refugee studies and climate migration. Our project was heavily focused on refugees with disabilities, and so that's kind of how I fell into disability studies.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming, and thank you Kamil for the introduction. My name is Alexandra Crooks, and I'm a junior at the University of Washington, majoring in public health on a pre-law track. And I'm very excited to have this conversation today.
Thank you, we are excited too. I think we have also an audience here who is interested on that and hopefully online. And I was reading about your project on your website, and you have you tackle a very diverse aspect when it comes also to disabled refugees from Uganda, from Germany, from different parts of the world, which is very interesting. And why you do it? What motivated you to engage in that?
I can start off. For me, I have participated in many different study abroad programs related to research on refugee populations and migrants. And so this project really appealed to me because I had explored different intersections with the environment and sustainability, but I hadn't yet explored that intersection of refugees with disabilities. And so I really took it as an opportunity to learn more about how we can create inclusive humanitarian responses to help inform how I conduct research in general, and also how I can use that in my future career.
Thank you. Yes, and Alexandra? Sorry?
Can you ask the next question?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No worries, no worries. So, maybe you can tell us a little bit how is the working with your mentors supporting your research and your studies in this field? Did they are supportive? Do you learn a lot from them? Do you implement, some techniques?
Okay, so our advisor, Professor Megan McCloskey, founded the Disability Inclusive Development Initiative, and she developed a multi-step research approach which really allowed us as undergraduate students to understand the barriers that asylum seekers with disability face during asylum proceedings. And so our approach comprised of 4 steps. First, we conducted a literature review as well as a legal mapping exercise to identify the relevant international, national, and legal frameworks. We also did a data analysis, and we did stakeholder interviews. So in order to identify the relevant laws, we selected these provisions based on 2 criteria. First, their applicability to asylum seekers and migrants, and second, the protections that they afford persons with disabilities under the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Next, we dove into our stakeholder interviews, where we had the opportunity to speak with various stakeholders within the International Rescue Committee, the Norwegian Refugee Council, the Danish Refugee Council, and also humanitarian inclusion. And we really found that this was part of the most significant aspect of our process, because it allowed us to hear like the lived experiences from people who are actively working on this issue on the ground. We next dove into our literature review, where we gathered additional data for our report and our findings, and this also helps to contextualize our project within the greater disability discourse. And then finally, we conducted a data analysis, data synthesis on the comparisons between each of our countries, kind of looking at the similarities and the differences between the countries in order to produce tangible recommendations for reform in the area of disability inclusion and refugee rights.
Thank you. Do you want to add something, or I continue?
I can add on to that. We had different country-specific legal advisors who helped us through this process, and they were able to provide different cultural contexts and allow us to interpret how these laws are realistically implemented or not implemented in each country. And so I worked on Uganda, Alex worked on Colombia, and so we each were paired with a lawyer from those countries who were able to help us navigate these complex legal documents.
Oh, and I kind of just wanted to add on to that too. Another thing that was really significant from this process was learning about sort of the difference in the significance of both quantitative and qualitative data. So our cohort was able to learn how to conduct quantitative data analysis through the legal mapping exercise, but we found that the most important insights for our particular study came from the stakeholder interviews, which provided the nuance to understand how these frameworks are working in practice, as well as the literature review. And this sort of challenged my existing notion that real research is something that just includes rigid methodologies and raw, hard numbers, and really reinforce the idea that the human experience is to be centered in research, especially that research that focuses on human rights. And so this kind of changed the way that I think about research.
Yes, thank you for this final comment. It's very important. I'm thinking from our perspective and the independent living movement, we are a research-based movement. We ask for people to, for the institutionalization, personal assistance, living in the community, and of course we work with researchers to prove that what we are asking for, it's doable, it's feasible, and it works in the world, in different parts of the world. So what you say about the role of research makes total sense, and I can really relate. And we need research, more research. That's why we also have a independent living research network in our case. And there's these different conferences about disability research around the world. There is one in Finland in a few months, for example, which will gather a lot of really interesting disability research related topics. So, thanks to research, we can move forward, I think, and we can understand better the situation and also advocate for our rights. Because it's one thing for me to say, yes, I want money from the government, for example, for personal assistance, and because that's my right and human right. And it's different to have a research behind me saying that this is benefiting the society, because the disabled people is active, and then you give back, and you employ people, and and that these people are productive while staying in institutions. You just pay money from the government, and this is all thanks to research. So definitely. Well, then maybe I wanted to ask you. You said we are doing this and that. What it means we? You are a big team. What? Yeah, maybe you can tell us a bit about your team.
So our cohort was 6 undergraduate students supported by our team of legal advisors. So there was a legal advisor for each country, and we examined Germany, Colombia, Uganda, Bangladesh, and the United States. And so that was our team. We also were supported by a postgraduate student who assisted with the United States section, as well as a graduate student who worked with Alex on the Colombia section. And so it was a small team of researchers, and I think that with the necessary support, we were able to use our small team to hopefully instill a movement of change within our university and inspire inclusivity in our coursework and in organizations in the Seattle area.
Yeah, and kind of to build on what Alex is saying, our advisors specifically and intentionally designed our research methodologies with the goal of helping us understand how specific United Nations international treaties are implemented on the ground. And this is because at the end of our project last May, we had the opportunity to present these findings to the Protection Officer on Disability, Inclusion, and Aging from the UNHCR. And so this kind of showed all of us that when we as undergraduate students have the opportunity to engage in dialogue with important stakeholders, we really do possess the ability to move the needle on these types of issues that we're focusing on. And it kind of just empowered all of us as students to continue to focus on this work. And an example of this is that several members of our cohort have actually moved on to acquire internships, volunteer work, and research experiences with different organizations such as UW Law, the City of Seattle, the UW Office of Undergraduate Research, congressional representatives, as well as the International Rescue Committee. And all of us, although we come from different disciplines, we've been able to incorporate this work back into our future careers and the things that we're doing now. So that's been really, really cool to see amongst my cohort members. Another thing is that we've been able to present this research to multiple different departments and settings across the University of Washington, which has generated really awesome and interesting conversations on the role of disability inclusion across different disciplines. And we've been able to center the importance of these conversations and emphasize really how, what this means to people from all areas of academic study at our institution, which has been really special.
Yes, indeed, and thank you for sharing that. Now a question which is not part of the script, but I think it's really interesting for the people, but also for the challenges you may face. So I wanted to see what are the challenges you face, and if nowadays with the situation we all know, especially from the US, do you think that this program will have difficulties to continue? Will it be more difficult for you to do your research and for the future students to continue this? What do you think is based on today's situation?
I think that a main challenge that we faced when we were conducting our research was finding reliable sources of data. There is a large gap in data collection regarding refugees with disabilities in terms of the collection of data, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And now looking at kind of the state of the United States and conducting research in general, I think that we can expect to face more challenges with lack of funding. And our project was not funded, and so perhaps that won't be affected. But I think just the general culture around inclusive research, that conversation is continuing to change. And I think that unfortunately that might create more difficulties for the research initiative, but I'm hoping that it will also encourage people to pursue inclusive research as a result of these difficulties.
I think the way I want to go about this question is discussing how several of the NGOs that we had the opportunity to speak with were not organizations that were specifically focused on disability. So we talked with several organizations focusing on refugees, asylum seekers, etc. But we found that many NGOs across our various contexts weren't actually collecting information about people with disabilities, and this made it harder to implement changes after the fact because so much aid was just going to general situations in the country, and with a lack of specific organizations focusing and talking about this topic, it kind of became invisible and harder for us to go about our work.
Thank you. So we are closing to the end of the session. Before we finish, we have half a minute. Of course, we didn't discuss everything. There is much more from what you do. And maybe someone can you tell us quickly to the audience where people can learn more about your work? What should we Google to read more?
You can Google the Disability Inclusive Development Initiative and find out more about our project as well as past projects and hopefully future projects as well. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn. Our emails, I believe, are on the Disability Inclusive Development Initiative website as well if you're interested in reaching out to learn more.
Thank you. I would like to thank you, Alice. I would like to thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, all of you who follow it in person and online, and to everyone who worked for this fireside chat, to the interpreters, and to the staff of the Zero Project Conference. More fireside chat are coming, so stay tuned. And yeah, have a good day. It was good.
Thank you so much.
No, I mean, you do so many things, so.